your friends. We would like to get lots of hits so that we can get a lot of audience to see your work when it comes up. So now I'd like to turn it over to Anne, who will introduce our filmmakers with mobile phones. And all of you, today's filmmakers were recruited by Anne. So she's going to take it away.
So Evelyn and Sepa know everybody in the world who's not in the United States. So way back when I told Evie, how about if I record some of my friends, recruit some of my friends with cell phones to join the project. So I'm not sure who I called first, but I did call my friend Trish Weinberg, who is sitting here with us. And Trish and I have known each other since 1967. And I think that's all. Are we asking Trish to say anything, like hello?
I don't know. Ask them to say hello and where they're from. So I think you just call their name and then they can say.
Okay. So, hey, Trish, tell us where you're from.
I'm from Tarrytown, New York. It's about 25 miles north of New York City. It's on the Hudson River, and it's many people will relate to it because it's Sleepy Hollow, actually.
So it's a good time of year to be from Tarrytown.
Yes.
All right, Susan Fox. I've known Susan just about as long as I've known Trish. So take it, Susan.
Hi, I'm Susan, La Crosse, Wisconsin, and I don't know, it depends on what you're reading, but a couple days ago, I heard that we were ground zero for COVID. I don't know if that's at this particular point. It's kind of ugly here, but so hello.
And her husband, Lee Rosh, who I met through Susan.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I'm here in La Crosse, Wisconsin, too, and we're enduring this together.
And Angie Hemker is my next door neighbor.
Hi, yes, I am. And we've known each other for probably 10 years, really close to La Crosse and the Mississippi River.
And Wendy, I've known Wendy a really long time too. Wendy Madison. Are you there, Wendy?
Yes, I am.
Oh.
Yes, this is my husband, Mark, and we live in La Crosse, Wisconsin. We've been certainly enjoying the beautiful fall leaves in the last couple of weeks. So that is what has brought us joy amidst this epidemic.
And Ed Ilson, I've known from LA and volleyball and the theater.
Indeed. I was just thinking, and that's been 25 years now too.
Oh,
so.
Let's go 35, should we, Ed?
We could, sure. at least.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just saying, yeah, LA, I'm currently in Brooklyn, and I'm currently in one of the hot zones that had a resurgence recently. Good news, as of last night, all of those hot zones have been declining. So,
and last but certainly not least, my friend Dale Raoul, who's in LA right now. That's where I know her from. And we're very pleased to have Dale along too. So take it away.
Thank you, dear Anne. Yes, I've been in Los Angeles for many years and have traveled the world with Anne Directra, which has been joyful. Hopefully we can do it again. I've been fortunate enough with my husband, Ray, to spend most of the summer in Montana, which is where I'm from. So that was a much more pleasant experience than actually being here. So I'm grateful.
Okay, well, take it back, Evie. It's yours now.
Okay, I would just like to acknowledge that Josh Aronson is in the room. And
yay, Josh.
Josh was actually there on the conference call when Anne and I said, hey, what about doing a documentary about COVID-19? And Josh was our guiding light. And I'm so glad you're here. I have to apologize because it's been months and months since I've written you, because it's sort of like it's been such a slog getting through this. It's quite been an adventure, but Josh gave us the idea of doing a web series. So Josh, your vision is intact. And I believe the original writing about Sanatione, what Sanatione hoped to accomplish, is from Josh. So we're very pleased to have our godfather here.
Well, thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure, and being with Anne and Evie, as you all know, is a joyful and inspiring experience. So glad to be here in any way I can help.
Fabulous.
Yay, Josh.
And I also would like to acknowledge that the chairperson of our IYMS board and one of the original founders of our parent organization, Brigitte Olsen, who's hiding in Sweden, but she's there. You can see her name, Brigitte Olsen. Welcome, Brigitte. And I'm so glad that we have Sweden present for today's conversation with Americans with mobile phones.
Mhm.
She's there. She's very quiet. She's saying something in Swedish, I'm sure. So let us start, and we'll hopefully have some time for questions from the audience. Or the filmmakers can ask each other questions like, wow, do you know what Anne did to us? Oh my gosh. So we're thrilled that you were too frightened of Anne to say no. So I have questions for everyone. Trish, we're going to start with you. And you're going to be in our coping episode, and you started out doing a lot of baking. So are you still up to your elbows in flour?
Well, actually, I wasn't for quite a while, and now I'm starting again because the anxiety is helped a lot by baking. When we started, well, when Anne called us, we had, first of all, I said, you want me to do what? What, are you kidding? We were hit hard and fast in New York, as Ed can tell you. And we all went into, in fact, it started about 12 miles from me in New Rochelle, was the first case. And we quarantined very fast. And I just needed something, as most of the rest of the world did too. I ended up using about 30 pounds of flour in like 3 months. But it gave me a sense of community because I would just deliver things to people. And I just have to, and you know, the summer got better, but now it's getting a little scary again. But I have to say, I found the filming with a cell phone, so I really loved it. I was telling stories. It was very helpful and very soothing. So thank you for that.
So telling stories with your cell phone was part of your coping process, do you think?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, I would either sit outside, and whether it was about baking, I did a tour of my kitchen. I did a tour of delivering some baking to people. And then I also was separated. We were separated from our baby granddaughter, who I was taking care of, because my daughter-in-law is a nurse at Montefiore in the city, and it was just too dangerous. So I would walk her, but with all masks, and she would, walk her far ahead, or see her behind a glass. So we would do some filmings of that. And it just, it became very, it became very soothing to put, and then look back and actually I thought I got pretty good at it. So I thought maybe I have another career. No, but it was very soothing. Thank you. It helped us a lot.
You're not done yet.
Oh, okay.
So Anne will give you more to keep you soothed. Thank you, Trish. And now let's go to Dale. Dale, you are our voiceover artist. And can you tell us where you recorded? Where was your recording room?
Well, when Anne asked me to do some of the narration, I was very happy to do it because it's such a lovely project. But I was then in Montana, as I said. But in Los Angeles, I have a more professional setup because we can do voiceovers and voiceover auditions from home. But in Montana, I did not have that. All I had was my iPad. So I had to find a place that was quiet. And so it ended up being my bathroom. So I would go in there and tell everyone I was, this is off limits. And I would start and, do it as often as needed to be done to get it, the proper length or whatever. The only problem would be that I have 2 dogs who always want to be with me. So there would be barking at the door and scratching at the door and whining at the door. So there was a lot of stop and start, but eventually we worked that out too. So yes, I mean, I'm quite amazed that it sounds, as nice as it does, considering that it was recorded in such an odd place. So Seppan, maybe that's up to you. So thank you. When we actually do it, ever for a big time, presentation, I'll get a professional to record it so we don't have so much echo. But
I think
I think we all will know about that because we're also going to play the intro of SANATIONE before we
Okay.
close this down. So
Well, it sounds better than it should.
no, it's absolutely beautiful. Your voice is absolutely
Well,
beautiful, and
thank you, Stefan.
it's so
Thank
well
you.
with the
I was very
concept of
honored to do it.
Dale, I'd also like to ask you what you discovered about yourself during this time, things that you were either proud of or disappointed in.
Oh, well, I guess quickly, I was proud, I guess is the word, I don't know, or surprised at how much I enjoyed the solitude, which even though it was enforced, I was also kind of proud all of a sudden, you know, it's not always the case to be an actor, because you realized how much the arts were a source of comfort and inspiration and joy, and how, you know, arts are everywhere and will not be denied. So you had, you know, singers in New York singing from their balconies, and quartets driving around in the back of pickup trucks playing, and, you know, theater online and dancers in the streets. And I found that very inspiring and wonderful. And I guess as far as disappointing, I'm sorry to say I'm not as much of a self-starter as I thought I was, or I once was. I was sorry to have turned out to be occasionally somewhat slothful. That's the word I would use. But I know that's not too uncommon these days, but still, yeah.
I read something about don't feel guilty if you haven't redecorated all those closets yet.
That's right. That's right.
Or written that screenplay.
Yes.
Thank you, Dale. Susan, can you tell us how it's different being a person in recovery from a distance?
Thank you for asking. In recovery, you know, for people who don't know me, I'm a recovering alcoholic and opioid addict. Had some real struggles with it. Around the tables, one of the things that we like to say, and that you hear now, is that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety or recovery. The opposite of addiction is connection. And that comes from, you know, you probably read about all those studies that they did with mice and rats, and they would give them the option of it would either be cocaine or alcohol or whatever, and how they would become addicted to. But then many years later, and not so many years ago, somebody took a look at those studies and said, well, why don't you give those mice and rats something to do? Give them a community, give them a playground, give them tunnels, give them toys. And then you did not see those choices, those repeated choices. You did not see that level of addiction. It was the connection. And so that's really true. And being somebody in recovery, that what happens to most of us is that what started out to be fun and normal and gregarious ends usually in isolation and secrecy. And so, you know, so now having this, it's been okay. I've actually lost some very close friends to relapse, and actually a couple in the hospital. Nobody that I know. Well, no, I take that back. Friend of mine, we haven't heard the cause of death, but I'm pretty sure that it was alcohol or drug overdose. But so I have kept my regular meeting, a group that I have started going to about 2 years ago. We meet. It's a 12. It's not AA. It's a different group. But anyway, we meet once a week on Saturdays, and we've continued to do that over Zoom. And then I also have a women's recovery group, and that was just prior to this one, and that's a 12-step group. And so we met this morning, 10 o'clock Sundays. And so it's that connection. And, you know, I just, I sponsor a young woman, and she's just so grateful. She has just over a year that she wasn't trying to get sober during this. It's a lot easier to stay sober than it is to get sober. And so I see some head nods. It looks like maybe some people know what I'm talking about. But so anyway, that's what it's like to be in recovery. It's hard. Somebody that I know that needs some help. We try, if we do any kind of in-person thing, you really shouldn't do it alone. And that's been something that we just haven't been able to navigate. And I'm also in that high risk category. So I'm pretty close to still quarantined. But so that speak to kind of what you were
Yes.
were thinking about.
And I want people to know that we had asked permission ahead of time. I didn't just spring that on you. But Anne,
No.
Anne, I think this would be a fabulous episode for Sanatione, because there's so many people, I'm sure, with the isolation that if they weren't addicted before, this might have find themselves in that position now. And Sanatione is about connection, as we can see from our international group that's joined us today. Thank you, Susan. Like to go to Ed, talking about the cheery stories from the COVID-19 crisis. So Ed, what were the ups and downs for you of not having a steady job during the pandemic?
Yeah. Well, the biggest down is money. And seeing my what little savings I had is quickly being eaten up by the high cost of living in New York. And to add on top of this is I didn't lose my job because of COVID. I left my job before COVID to restart my life, and moved from California to New York, where I've always wanted to be, and was starting over here. Had some great interviews prior to COVID, and then everything shut down. So the biggest con, obviously, again, money. I'm still daily looking for a job, still applying to things. I'm starting to get rejection emails, which at least, now I'm at least getting responses. So that's a positive. But I keep talking to people and things seem to be coming back, so I'm hopeful. The other downside to that is now there's also 12 million people who are looking along with me. So it's a very competitive job market. I have an executive skill set, so that even becomes even more competitive. And in New York, there's a lot of companies that have just stopped and have left. So
Can you talk about Brandy? Can you mention Brandy, your sister?
Sure. Yeah, my sister is, she's an agent in Los Angeles, works for, it's not a major, but it's a boutique agency that is full service. She was specializing in voiceover. They switched to remote. It slowed down. It did not stop, especially voiceover, because you can do that from your home recording, and patch into other places. And so she was still working. There wasn't a lot of work out there, but she was still working. But then probably about a month and a half ago, they downsized their agency and got rid of a couple of agents and increased Brandy's work, decreased her salary, increased her work. That has since changed. They've reinstated her normal salary, but she's now doing theatrical, voiceover, some print. She's doing all of it. So it's
has she been able to give you any throw any auditions your way?
Yeah, actually, occasionally when there's something that is not site specific or that can be recorded in New York, she'll send me a script and give me an audition, which is nice.
And now you know where you can go record your voiceover.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been very lucky. The room that I'm in is not on. Well, the house that I'm in is on one of the main streets in Brooklyn that runs the entire length of the borough. My room is towards the center of the building, so it's relatively quiet. As long as I turn off my air conditioning and close my window, I can get a fairly decent sound with my iPhone. So
great. Thank you, Ed. So we kind of asked Lee ahead of time what he'd like to talk about, and he wanted to maybe say something about the dangers of making this health issue political. So Lee, can you speak to that for us?
Well, thank you. And first, let me say that I feel very much out of my league as a filmmaker, but the experience has given me opportunities to record my thoughts and process some things. So this has been a valuable experience for me. I'm involved with a nonpartisan nonprofit organization called Leader Ethics Wisconsin, and we promote ethical leadership among elected officials. And we define ethical leadership as individuals who are truthful, transparent with public information. They're unifiers, not dividers, and they work to represent their entire constituency. And in this last year, so much of that has, the discussion and the political dynamics have been dominated by the pandemic. And it's saddening to see the way the pandemic has become politicized. In the early stages, it was not. We were really in this together to try to figure out how we could get ahead of the curve and protect as many jobs in the process, and we lost that. And unfortunately, it has resulted in increased sickness and death. And it has also had a lasting or a longer lasting impact on the economy, which is also has some tragic side effects as well. But the interesting thing is, it's not just national or at the state level. It happens in local interactions as well. I sing in a quartet, a doo-wop barbershop quartet, and of course, singing is one of those high-risk areas. And as a group, we probably also fit in the high-risk category. And so, in the early stages of the pandemic, we had some challenging discussions about this. And I should say that we have 2 conservative members and 2 liberal members, and we have different backgrounds. And actually, that's one of the things I really enjoy about this, is you don't have to come from the same place. You just need to feel the joy of singing. But it was really tense, and at one point I thought we might split up in the process. We did talk through these things, and then one of our members got the COVID virus, and he spent 9 days in the hospital. And with blood clots in his lung, he's going to have some lasting challenges. So I'm not sure people are going to vote differently, perhaps, but I know we have a greater understanding of the seriousness of what we're facing, and how what we need to do is be supportive of each other.
So back to the theme of connecting and supporting. Thank you, Lee. Thank you so much. Angie, you are an art teacher. I'm a teacher as well. What is it like for you, not knowing from week to week whether school will be virtual or face-to-face?
Well, it's certainly different. Everything about this is different, I think we could probably say. And Wisconsin has made the news recently. We are kind of a hot spot in our nation. We do find out on the Wednesday prior to the next week if we will be virtual, hybrid, or fully face-to-face. And challenging is another word that comes to mind just right away. Teachers take a lot of pride and spend a lot of time making sure that they're well planned for instruction, and then reflecting on what they have seen and worked with on kids prior. And it's just so different because we're planning for so many different possible scenarios, and we're looking ahead, but you can't look too far ahead because you don't know what 2 or 3 weeks from now will be. We have been fully online. We have been hybrid. We have already gone back to fully online and are now back to a hybrid, and our elementary is face-to-face every day. So within the 6 weeks that we've been in school, we've already sampled a variety of different types of instruction. Kids are very flexible and probably adapt even quicker than we do. But it's been interesting. We've really become experts in flexibility and patience and persistence, probably also. It's challenging, but it's great to be back with the kids. I will say that. That's the best part, is getting to see them, even fully masked. It's good to be in the same room with them.
And are they happy to be back with you?
You know, they are. Even those kids that are verbal about their not always wanting to be at school, they are happy to be back. And it's a good place for a lot of kids. It's a safe place for kids who maybe don't have that same safe place at home always. So we know that they're getting their 2 meals a day when they're with us, and we know that they're warm and they're safe, and learning is hopefully happening along the way there as well. But making sure we're reaching everyone. It's a whole new world.
It's a whole new world. And thank you so much, Angie, because I know how difficult it is, and I really appreciate you going back. And I'm sure the kids do too.
Yes.
Mindy, you are our final filmmaker to speak with. During this time, you've come to realize the vast difference between the rest of the world and the US, given the sense of white privilege in this country. And those are your words, not mine, but I would like you to expand on that because we are an international filmmaking group. And I think our international filmmakers would be interested in hearing you talk about that.
Mm-hmm. So thank you very much for this opportunity to give voice to this. And what I'd like to say is what I've learned and what I'm continuing to learn stepping into this project. So I'll speak to two kind of avenues that I was working on early on in this project. And when she asked me to become a part of this project, one of the things she was asking for was to go out with a camera and just take footage that could be used as background information. And also as a part of this, to look at the ways in which I am nurtured or that I am fed through this COVID pandemic. And so I went out and began to shoot footage of nature, because that is something that feeds me. And it can be by the lake's edge, in the forests, listening to the sounds of the birds or the wind. I found myself getting up early when we were at our cabin to take photos or footage of the rising sun. And I found how much that nurtured me, and how lucky I was to be fed by this simplicity. And then another conversation with Anne led me to have a conversation with a friend of mine, Nahua Tonyang. And he's someone I have worked with for about 15 years. He is a refugee from Laos, and he came to the United States in 1985. His father was a part of the secret war in Laos, and at the age of 4 or 5, he was forced to flee his Hmong village and survive life in a jungle in Laos. And he survived there for 4 to 5 years. And the stories that I've heard from him and others were ways in which he and his family would move every 2 to 3 days to find food or to retreat from soldiers who were hunting their family down. After 4 to 5 years, his family decided that they were going to have to leave Laos because they simply couldn't survive. They were starving. They built bamboo rafts and went across the Mekong River, and then lived 8 to 9 years in a refugee camp, where every day they would have to be mindful of whether they were going to survive because of the unsanitary conditions. and because they did not have enough food to eat. So I called him up and I said, I told him about this project. And I said, I would like to gain an understanding about how you and your family are surviving through this pandemic in light of your own life experiences. And he said, this is not a problem for me at all. He said, I have a home to live in. I have a basement filled with freezers that store food from our gardens. I can go to the hospital when I need to. I have connections with family. I have good work. And when I reflected upon his life story and how he is able to survive COVID because of his particular situation, and I reflected upon my own way of nurturing myself, I was humbled because Mark and I too have a shelter to live in. We have food for our tables and we feel safe and we find enriching activities that we can fill our lives with in our own home. And so when I come to look at the filming through SANATIONE that I have seen, and I listen to voices of people in other parts of La Crosse, other parts of our country, other parts of the world, I am reminded with a magnifying glass of the inequities of life. And that has been a true lesson for me as I have stepped into using my camera, which not only gives voice to the environment that nurtures me, but also reflects upon my inner self. And so as I move forward, what I believe is important for me to continue to do is to find that truth, whether it is something that is humbling to me or stark. I think that this project reveals the family of humanity and is going to be teaching us ways in which we can better understand who we are as a family of human beings.
And I couldn't think of a more perfect way to wrap up this SANATIONE talk. Wendy, thank you. That was beautiful. And I want you to know that this is certainly, you have proven to us that one of our goals with this project, to connect people across the world and to hear their experiences during this time, you have shown us that this has achieved that. And thank you so much for those words. And it's something for us all to reflect on. And you might, those of you in the audience might wonder, you thought they were going to talk about their filming. They did talk about their filming, but I think that we have discovered in this project that the documentary we will eventually film about SANATIONE is going to be about you, the filmmakers. So we will ask you all to repeat the stories of your life during this time, Wendy, and talking about what she's learned about the world through this project. And it's just so enriching for us to reach out and connect and see that we are experiencing so many similar things. And what a lovely group of people. And I'm so glad that some of our international filmmakers could be here and talk with you. Suppan and I have to jump off eventually and get to the Soho International Film Festival. We have a film there that we need to talk about, but if everyone's okay for hanging for a bit, do we have any questions? And then we can do that. So, anyone have any questions of any of the filmmakers or any of the people here? I was looking here in the chat. Anyone have any questions of anyone in the room? I think we found some more episodes to do, didn't we, Anne, today? Yeah.
Yes.
We're going to go past 30. We'll be doing 50. We'll be doing this the rest of our lives. It'll be fine. It'll be cool. No, if we have no questions, then I think Suppan is very eager. Suppan, can you show it from your computer? Because I don't have
Yes.
mine ready to
Yes.
go. He wants to show you the intro. Some of you have footage in the intro. And for whoever shot the cute little rabbit, the rabbit's not in this one, but the rabbit will appear in another episode. So not to worry.
Yes.
So this is the, and I think, Dale, you did 40 takes of this voiceover. Am I right? Was it 40 or 50? Somewhere in the
Well, it's totally worth it. Let's have a look now.
Totally worth it. So you'll see some of your footage, some of your.
December 2019. News comes from Wuhan, China, about an alarming novel strain of coronavirus. What we now know as COVID-19 starts spreading, and nations worldwide enforce quarantines and lockdowns. While the world enters crisis mode, a group of filmmakers across the globe grabs their cameras to capture the lives and stories around them. Sharing these stories, they realize, even before COVID-19, we had equally virulent diseases dividing us. Perhaps this virus might be a test for humanity, a wake-up call for change. Filmmakers and storytellers from 22 countries unite in a shared goal to tell the story of a time for healing. This is SANATIONE.
It really is neat, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Some of you saw your shots in there, and we heard Dale's wonderful voice. And trust me, this took 3 months to do. And it's a minute and a half. So we hope you're as proud of this and of your work as we are. And I just want to thank you so much to the energy and the love and the passion that you bring to this. Is so supportive, and we're going to have a huge party. We're going to have a huge wrap party at some point after COVID is over, and you're going to get to meet all of the other filmmakers around the world. We'll decide what country that's going to be in. It's going to be someplace fabulous. And I'm going to let you, as the godmother of this troupe, to do our closing remarks.
Oh, I didn't really have anything planned, but I just want to thank you all for taking the time, not only for today, but for all the time you've spent doing this. And I've been able to be with you for some, like Wendy and I shooting an hour and a half in one of the Hmong gardens, and shooting Susan and Lee doing a COVID-19 takeoff on the Hokey Pokey dance, which will be in another episode. And Dale, of course, it's always a pleasure. And Ed, I'm so glad we reconnected. And Trish, I just miss you and Howard and your weekly, your monthly or yearly visits, or being able to go to New York and see you. And Angie, I get to see you across the backyards. And who have I missed? I think I got her. Did I get everybody? I did. And yes, okay. That's all. Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you for all of you for joining today.
Thank you so much. Sup, and Anne, why don't we hang here for a second? And if
Okay.
Josh can stay for a second too. Thank you all.
Thank
Share
you all.
our trailer. Look next week for the first episode to come out. Nidhi, thank you so much for coming. See you next week, sweetheart.
I think she's muted.
I guess Josh didn't want to hang around. So he was on your mailing list. It's sort of like I feel guilty every time I think about him, but so.
I know, I forgot. Well, this was well timed because Teddy just decided to join us. So
oh my gosh. Was the transition from Wendy okay? Because I got distracted looking at the chat room and then she ended and I.
No, it was good.
Was it okay?
No, that was good.
Okay.
Yeah. How many people did we have? Did we have any audience?
Oh,
We had around 9,